Stay tuned for a 350-mile review of these Rocky hot weather boots. Welcome back to the Evolving Warfighter. I'm Dr. Franklin Annis, and for the last 1,000 days, I've been trying to copy the marching capabilities of a great 19th century educational philosopher named Captain Alden Partridge. Now, his marching capabilities were legendary. In fact, he helped inspire the Vermont Long Trail and in part inspired the Appalachian Trail. During these last 1,000 days, the Rocky Boot Company has been kind enough to offer me a few pair of boots to try along my marching endeavors. And I've had great success so far, from the S2V tactical boot to the S2V enhanced jungle boot. These are high quality premium boots. And after reviewing those two boots, I realized I had been out of a basic issue boot for quite some time. In fact, I haven't worn a basic issue boot for about 8 years prior to the boots I've tested now. So I requested Rocky send me a pair of their hot weather boots. Now, this is a boot that's enrolled in the Defense Logistics Agency, or DLA, boot program. So this is made to the basic specifications for a military boot for a soldier in the U.S. Army. Although several brands get purchased under this program, it's highly likely that a brand new soldier would be issued this Rocky boot when they initially entered their military service, or if they're downrange in the combat environment and they damage their boots, they may get this type of boot as a replacement boot to wear out in a combat environment. Now, I can say there's pretty radical differences between a basic issue boot such as this and the premium boot, and we'll talk more about that. So I can say that while this is a review specific to this boot, it's really going to be a comparison to these other boots, and then what you can do in a basic issue boot versus a premium boot in itself. Now, I can say these boots for the hot weather boots run about $160. Depending on where you find them, you can often find them on sale for less than that. I think these were priced on the sale for about $100 when I picked them up. I think a Rocky right now is selling them for $115 on their website. Now, we can compare that price, which is an affordable price, to such as a boot like the Rocky S2V tactical boot. So this is going to run closer to $270 range, and the enhanced jungle boot, which is actually my favorite boot, I believe these are running about $255. So there is a sizable price difference between that. However, in the end, in terms of capabilities that they may offer, you may want to spend more to get the higher quality boot. Not knowing where to begin, we'll talk about water. So I can say, being a soldier and having my feet wet, gotten my feet wet several times in basic issue boots, especially with the vents, you get a feeling of kind of walking in a swimming pool. So that was the exact same effect that I found in these boots, where if you walk through, essentially I had to walk through a stream or a large puddle, the vents are going to take on water, and then the water is going to get trapped to the line of the vents themselves. And this boot does not shed water very easily, so either you're going to have to stop, pour the boots out physically, change your socks, or if you're on the move, you end up doing a modified hamstring stretch to try to drain the water out of these boots and have it run down your calf and off your knee. So not good at handling water. On the contrary, both of these S2V series boots, they pull in water, or pull in air with each step you take, and they have a remarkable way of pushing out water. And I can say these boots you can basically walk your feet dry in, and it's unlike any other boot that I've tried. So I can say if you're working in a wet weather environment or someplace where you can get your feet wet, an S2V boot is going to treat you so much better in terms of preventing kind of the waterlogging of your feet, the blisters that may come along with the more moisture, or the other medical conditions such as trench foot if you need to get water off your feet. Now, I'm not sure if I got just a defective pair of these boots. and I've never seen this happen in any other boot I've ever worn in my career. But on the back of these boots, the eyelets themselves, they seemed, some of the rivets were pretty sharp. And what happened is they actually started eating through the tongue of the boot in certain areas. And like I said, I may have just gotten unlucky with this pair of boots, but it happened on both boots on several different eyelets. And it would be something that I'd be concerned with if I wore these boots more often, in terms of tearing up my socks, and then eventually that would start tearing up you. Now, if we look at the bottom, you can tell it's a Vabram lug sole. This is about the standard boot used in all combat boots, or all basic issue boots. Vabram is a very good company sole. And if we look at them, you can tell there's not much wear. And there's a reason why this is a 350-mile review. Now, I can say the S2V tactical boots, I've taken these out on marches as long as 43.5 miles in one day. And I came back home from that march with absolutely no blisters. I wore this boot for over 1,000 miles marching, and you can see how much I wore the tread off of it. Just a great boot itself. And my favorite boot, the S2V Enhanced Jungle Boot, very much the same. I wore these boots out. I marched over 1,400 miles in these. I've covered up to 62 miles in a single day wearing these boots. I did get blisters in them. However, it wasn't blisters that, a few days rest I couldn't get back out there and keep on marching. And then I'll break aside here and say, both of the S2V boots have these wonderful side lugs that you don't see in most other boots that would be absent on the standard Vabram sole. These are great for adding traction. Now, the question is, why is this only a 350-mile review on these boots? And it goes back to essentially the reason why I marched in the first place. It goes back to Captain Alden Partridge. He was a big believer in using fitness to improve the physical capabilities of soldiers, but also the psychological capabilities. So he would march about 10 miles a day, but once a quarter he would challenge himself and his cadets to go on several days worth of marching, where they would march between 30 and 80 miles per day, according to which they could bear the fatigue. So basically they'd go as far as they could during that time period. And that's something I've been trying to do. Unfortunately, I don't have the time in my career to go out several days a quarter, but once a quarter I try to go out and do some type of ultra marathon length ruck march. And the only time I ever attempted those in these boots, it ended up being a miserable failure. I got less than 30 miles in overall before I had to call it quits, because basically these boots were giving me injuries that would have taken me out of training for several weeks trying to heal. And that issue comes apart in the very critical aspect of a boot, is at the very heel where it connects from the leather sole or the heel cup of the boot to the top portion of the boot. And in these Rocky hot weather boots, you see a very sharp transition, and inside there's essentially a very hard seam that wears on the backside of your Achilles tendon. Now, blistering is caused by a mechanical fatigue of the skin, or wearing that the skin can't adjust to. And these boots, I was never able to wear for more than 8 miles without it actually giving me a blister at this portion of my foot. And when I went out in these boots trying to march 40 miles one day, like I said, I had to cut the march short, but by the time I had hit 12 miles, I had significant blisters on the back of my heels. By the time I was hitting 18 miles, I was bleeding in the back of my Achilles tendons. Because of that sharp transition, you can see there's a slight discoloration still where I bled through the boots here, and I ended up stopping at just over 29 miles just so I could recover. And at that point I realized I need to find a different boot, because these boots just aren't capable of handling the type of marches that I want to do for my personal training. And that really brings up an interesting point. So when I was a brand new soldier entering the service, and we had to go out and take our issue boots and go do a 12-mile ruck march at basic entry training, I thought to myself, you know, a lot of the blisterings and the problem with our feet were really brought up by inexperience, but that's not exactly true. So when we look at some of the elite soldiers or elite units out there, some of it, in terms of what they can do in terms of physical capability, is really up to the quality of the equipment that they have, whether they purchased that individually or whether it was issued to them. And that basic issue boot really isn't suited for marathon length ruck marches. And while I didn't try it in the Rocky brand boot, the first time I ever tried the Bataan Memorial Death March, I wore a very similar type of boots than that, completely destroyed my feet. Had to spend a couple weeks not marching or really walking because of the damage I did to my feet. However, I was able to come back a couple years later with a premium style boot, was able to walk that Bataan Memorial Death March without a single blister. And it really speaks to the point of it's worthwhile to invest in quality boots if you're going to use them for tactical purposes or long range marching. Now, I can say, is it worth the investment to spend, you know, an extra $100 for the enhanced jungle boots or extra $120 for, you know, the tactical boots? And I can say absolutely yes if you're trying to do those long range marches. I can say with the limited time that I wore these boots, I actually spent over that price difference in just blister care bandages. So it really makes you consider buying the right equipment for the right purpose out there. Now, am I saying that these boots are terrible boots? And the answer to that is no. They're just bad for my purpose. If you're buying these boots because you are a soldier and you need something in garrison, or they're given to you for free, you're going to use them in the motor pool walking around, or an office, or costume. Even if you're going out and you're playing airsoft for a couple hours a day, or paintball, these would be a great purchase, affordable. They would serve the purpose. However, if you're going to go out and you do pretty intense field training for the military, any type of serious school, if you're planning on doing major ruck marches, whether you're trying to copy a practice that I use or you want to go hike the Appalachian Trail, then definitely think about upgrading to a premium boot and really giving yourself the equipment you need to push your physical capabilities. So that way you're not injuring yourself when you still had a lot more physical capability to go further down the road. Now, one more other point that I'd like to bring up is the S2V series boots do have built-in ankle protection to them in terms of ankle stability, which you will not find in these type of boots or basic issue boots. If you're going to wear these boots, I'd highly advise, I highly advise everyone to consider checking out the Arise iFast ankle protection if you're doing any type of serious hiking, just as a way of preventing serious injury for your ankle and providing that type of protection. However, you do get some type of ankle protection if you upgrade to these premium boots offered by Rocky that you don't see in other types of premium boots out there. Now, I hope this video helps you in terms of selecting what boot would best fit your budget and your purpose that you want to go out there and do. Again, my personal favorite are these enhanced jungle boots. Personally, I've worn them all the way down to freezing temperatures. They've served me well, incredibly long lasting and just rugged field boots, and they fit my need just perfectly. If you want something a little more comfortable, a little more padding, the tactical boots are also a great purchase out there to go out and do some amazing marching and cover some distance. And with that being said, if you have any comments or suggestions on what boots that I should try next, I please invite you to leave comments in the comment section below. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me a question below and I'll try to get an answer back to you as quickly as I can. Before I let you go, I encourage you to take a look at the Tolkien Challenge. It's a way that I keep myself motivated in terms of going out there and keeping up my rucking by comparing the distances I travel with the great events that occur in the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. With that, I invite you to subscribe to the Evolving Warfighter for more videos on the topic of military self-development, military history, and product reviews in terms of equipment used for ruck marching. And until next time, please focus on your self-development so we can dominate the modern battlefield, and I'll see you out on the trails. Thank you.